Fire truck sirens were blaring loudly. Clutching her body, the young female CEO shouted with tears in her eyes. "And no, I didn't touch you. I just accidentally saw." At that moment, a teardrop fell from her teary eyes. "So you saw it? Huh? You must have thought I was a monster." I was so confused, I couldn't find any words to say to her. Even though it was unintentional, I had learned her secret. Then she looked at me with teary eyes and said, "If you can keep this secret just between the two of us, I, Liam Moore, work in sales for Three Sheep." Three Sheep is a betting company, recognizable by its logo of three sheep jumping to form a circle. At a larger company, there would probably be positions like assistant manager, section chief, and department head above regular employees like us, but we don't have those. Instead, each department has a designated leader who is mainly responsible for reporting, communicating, and consulting with the CEO, our only superior. And I've been entrusted with the role of sales department leader. At the end of a sweltering July, I returned to the air-conditioned office from my outside sales calls and wiped the sweat streaming down my face. "Welcome back," a woman from the admin department called out to me. "Gosh, no matter when I see ya, you're always sweating buckets, Liam," she said, glancing at my outfit. Despite the heat, I was wearing a long-sleeve shirt and pants. Of course, the shirt was thin, so it wasn't as hot as it looked. "Well, y'all don't want to get sunburned. I put on a cardigan too when I go outside." Wearing short sleeves herself, she pointed to the thin navy cardigan hanging on the back of her chair. "Yep, sun damage is skin's worst enemy," I replied casually before returning to my desk and taking a seat. "Oh yeah, Liam, the CEO was looking for ya." She raised her voice, so I hurriedly stood up. "Lead with that next time." Before heading out for sales calls this morning, I had sent data summarizing this month's overall performance of the sales department to the CEO. As a leader, was there some kind of issue with it? I rushed to the CEO's office. After knocking and stating my name, I heard "Come from inside." "Excuse me, Ms. Young, was there a problem with the data I sent this morning?" "No, your work is always perfect, Liam." The CEO, Sophia Young, who founded this company in her 20s, smiled. "The reason I called you today is that I wanted to directly express my appreciation in person. It's been 5 years since I established this company, and I've received so much support from you and the sales team. If that's the case, please tell the others too, not just me. It's not only my achievement, and not only the sales department, but also the admin team that supports us and the manufacturing department that develops great products." "That's true. I'm glad you're always so attentive to those around you, Liam. I'd be happy if you continued to support me going forward." Her saying that while looking up at me made my heart race. To stop myself from thinking she might be interested in me, I firmly gripped my arm through my long sleeves. The CEO is so beautiful that she's called an unattainable icon by our employees and business partners. If a flawless, ordinary man was told what she just said to me, he'd probably fall in love instantly. But I'm different, because I've already decided to never fall in love again. I appreciate the kind words. I'll keep working hard, I responded, trying to stay calm. I nodded and left the CEO's office. Hey, I heard someone call out. I saw Ethan, another member of the sales team, snickering at me along with the 2 other sales members and 4 guys from manufacturing. There was an error in the data, wasn't there? I'll graciously help you fix it. Be honored I'm offering before you came begging. No, there were no issues. And even if there were, why would I need to beg you for help? 'Cause you're a high school grad, aren't ya? Figured you never learned how to put together data properly. The others around him laughed along as Ethan mockingly said that. I did learn that in high school, and I studied it again on my own, so it's fine. I replied evenly, not getting riled up. Ethan raised his eyebrows, perhaps angry at my calm response. Don't get cocky just 'cause the CEO likes ya. And for Pete's sake, wearing long sleeves in this heat makes the rest of us so dang hot we can focus on work. I was at a loss for words. Seeing my reaction, Ethan put on a knowing face. You said you're sensitive to cold. I wonder about that. Maybe there's another reason. One you can show us. I backed away as Ethan stepped closer. I knew the reason why he was so hostile towards me. He had feelings for the CEO. He really wanted to be the sales leader himself, to get close to her, So having me, with less education than him, getting in the way annoyed him to no end. Just as my back hit the wall and I thought all was lost, the admin girl called out, "Ethan, you got a phone call." Clicking his tongue, he and his followers moved away from me. I let out a sigh of relief and gripped my arm tightly again. The reason I always wear long sleeves has nothing to do with being sensitive to cold. As Ethan said, I have a reason I can't show anyone. When I was in elementary school, I was still Liam Daly. At that time, my parents had a bad relationship. They fought every single day. The reason for their fights was because after my dad was laid off, he lounged around at home without looking for a new job. "Hurry up and find work already. You know my income alone isn't enough," my mom would shout. "Shut up. I am looking, okay. Can't help it if I can find any." Dad would yell back as he tossed his cigarette aside. Mom would glare at him and say, "That's dangerous." Sick and tired of their constant arguing, I naturally found it harder to go home, and I started killing time at a nearby park until nighttime when Mom would leave for work. Because of that, I didn't have the time or motivation to do homework, so I'd get scolded by the teacher at school. I hated hearing more yelling, so I started cutting class altogether. My only solace during that time was the girl who lived in the neighborhood. I didn't know her name. I had no way of talking to her, so I didn't even know her last name. I didn't know her personality or voice either. All I knew was that her house was really big and nice, and that she was always at home. She would gaze absent-mindedly out the window from the second-floor room, wearing pajamas. I first noticed her in early fall, when I had gotten completely into the habit of skipping school. Seeing the melancholic expression on the face of the girl who seemed to be about my age, I found myself stopping to stare at her. Perhaps realizing that, the girl smiled and waved at me. In that instant, I fell in love. She was so cute when she smiled. I hurriedly waved back, and she laughed into her hand, apparently finding it funny. That made my heart swell with joy. I had made her smile. I started intentionally walking by her house every day, trying to act casual, thinking it might be easier for her to spot me if I came at a set time. I realized it would be simpler to match that up if I went to school, so I stopped skipping. Naturally, I started going straight home too, which gave me time to do homework, and I stopped getting scolded by the teacher. My parents still fought constantly, but it stopped bothering me as much. She was my savior. It happened when I was walking home from school as usual. That day was Christmas. I had a Christmas present I'd bought the day before hidden in my pocket. It was a keychain. As soon as I saw the design of 3 sheep jumping in a row, I knew I wanted to give it to her. Of course, I had it properly gift-wrapped for Christmas. I was planning to secretly slip it into her mailbox. Would she be surprised, thinking it was from Santa? Would it make her happy? I wouldn't get to see her reaction, but just imagining her surprise made me excited. Up ahead, I spotted black smoke in a crowd. Fire truck sirens were blaring loudly. It was my first time experiencing a fire this close by, so I was shocked, but in a detached way. But the moment I realized it was that girl's house, all such idle thoughts vanished. I pushed through the crowd of onlookers to get as close as I could to the barricade line. I was stunned by the intense heat of the raging flames reaching all the way to where I stood. My daughter is still upstairs. I suddenly heard a voice cry out. I saw a soot-covered woman clinging to a firefighter. Immediately understanding she was talking about that girl, I felt the blood drain from my body. But in the next instant, I had leapt past the barricade line and charged into the blazing inferno. It was hot and my throat hurt and my feet wanted to stop, but I berated them and stomped through the flames to reach the second floor. I opened the door to the room I had deduced was most likely hers, and bingo! There she was on the bed, not resisting at all, just staring blankly. "We gotta run," I yelled, inhaling smoke, which made my throat burn fiercely as I coughed. That seemed to alert the girl to my presence, and she looked at me with wide eyes. I grabbed her arm, pulled her out of the room, and headed down the stairs. At that moment, the stairs that had burned into charcoal crumbled. The girl and I tumbled down. I don't remember anything after that. I do recall that after I had collapsed face up, the girl embraced me as if to shield me from the flames. When I came to, I was in the hospital. Mom was beside me, her face a mess as she cried and shouted, "You idiot." I had suffered severe burns on both arms and legs. I'm sure the only reason it wasn't worse was because that girl had held me. That made me worry about her condition, but listening to Mom, I realized I wouldn't be able to see her. After I was released from the hospital, Mom divorced Dad. She got custody of me, so my last name changed to Moore, her maiden name. We left the town we'd been living in to stay with Mom's family. I couldn't make friends in our new town. The burn scars left on my arms and legs made people uneasy around me. I went to a high school a bit farther away and hid my arms and legs as I attended. That allowed me to finally make some friends. I got a girlfriend too. She confessed her feelings to me first, but that didn't last long either. When summer came, she begged me to go to the swimming with her. No matter how many times I refused, she kept wanting to go, so I told her about my burns and showed her my arms. I can still clearly remember the look on her face at that moment. It was like she was looking at something repulsive. "Gross," she said. Her eyes and words were enough to make me vow to never fall in love again. Since then, I haven't told anyone about my burns, and I've been extremely careful not to let anyone see them. To celebrate the company's 3rd anniversary, a Thanksgiving and fun night trip was planned. We rented out an entire bus and headed to a luxury hotel. "I can't wait for the spa," someone said. "Yeah, and more than anything, we'll get to see the CEO in a bathrobe. That alone will be healing." Ethan and his usual group of 6 were huddled in the back seats, whispering excitedly to each other. I pretended to be asleep. I accidentally let myself imagine how beautiful the CEO would surely look in a bathrobe, but I shook my head to dispel the thought. The CEO values me enough to appoint me as sales leader. But the only reason my sales performance is good is because I had sales experience at another large company before coming to 3 Sheep. In a few more years, even Ethan will probably be as good as me. Then, just as Ethan wishes, he might be appointed leader. I'll be sad to have fewer chances to talk with the CEO, but if that's better for the company, I'll support it wholeheartedly. There's no way someone like me could ever be with the CEO anyway. She's a way out of my league. I'm just a pebble on the roadside, a dirty one that everyone detests. Speaking of the spa, you think Liam's gonna do it? I saw him, when they announced the company trip would be to a luxury hotel with a spa. He made a face. So he really ain't just sensitive to cold. You think he's got huge tattoos all over him or something? Maybe. Ethan and the others started this conversation, probably thinking I was asleep. Holding back the urge to sigh, I focused on thinking about how I could go to the spa alone. Unfortunately, not relaxing to a nice massage at the spa wasn't an option I was willing to consider. Dinner started at 6 p.m. in a room the hotel had set aside for our exclusive use. Most people had apparently enjoyed the spa before dinner and were wearing bathrobes. I was still in the thin, long-sleeved shirt and pants I had worn here. I pretended not to notice Ethan and the others looking at me and whispering amongst themselves. "Sorry to keep you waiting," the CEO said as she appeared in the room, wearing not a bathrobe but sweats. Seeing that, Ethan and the others were visibly disappointed. "Ms. Young, you're not wearing a bathrobe?" Ethan asked. "Sorry, I didn't have time to go to the spa," the CEO said apologetically in a cute way, making the guys swoon. "Then, Ms. Young, want to go together later?" "I was planning to go again cause it felt so good," invited one of the female admin staff, but the CEO shook her head. "It's better not to go after drinking alcohol, don't you think?" The woman nodded in agreement. The CEO could hold her liquor pretty well. After an hour, the dinner party was in full swing. Ethan had apparently drunk a ton and was chatting and laughing with a group of men and women. His face beat red. I quietly slipped out of the banquet room. The employees were absorbed in the party like this, and the other guests would be having dinner at this time. There shouldn't be anyone in the spa. I was worried not to see the CEO around anywhere, but even if she was getting a spa right now, we'd be in different rooms. As expected, I had the spa all to myself and was able to take my time relaxing to the spa therapist's treatment. I left the spa feeling refreshed. I headed to my room first to drop off my things before returning to the dinner party. Suddenly, I noticed someone curled up in a ball not far from my room. Are you okay?" I called out, concerned because the hunched back looked like the CEO's. Then that person swayed unsteadily as if collapsing, and fell to the floor. That bright red face did indeed belong to the CEO. "Ms. Young, stay with me," I shouted and rushed over, but she remained limp, Maybe she had gotten dizzy from getting a spa treatment after drinking alcohol. I figured I needed to take care of her, so for the time being, I decided to bring her to my nearby room. I pulled her up. At that moment, the back of her sweatshirt rode up. There was a large burn scar there. I gasped despite myself. I laid the CEO on the bed and put a damp towel on her head and ankles. The whole time, I couldn't get the burn scar I had just seen out of my mind. Was this the reason the CEO had declined to go to the spa with the other employees? Was it bad that I saw it? As I agonized over this, the CEO woke up. "Where? Liam. Oh, you're awake. Ms. Young, you collapsed near my room. I brought you here for now, but, I didn't do anything weird, I swear." Feeling awkward, I averted my gaze as I explained the situation. The CEO tilted her head at my behavior, then suddenly looked down at her own clothes and turned pale. "You saw me naked, didn't you? Did you touch me?" she shouted, clutching her body and glaring at me with teary eyes. I panicked at the sudden accusation. "And no, I absolutely did not touch you. Liar. My clothes are disheveled." Indeed, her sweatshirt was bunched up, exposing her skin. I had forgotten to fix it. I really didn't. It did right up when I was carrying you accidentally, but I definitely didn't touch you. "Fine. If you insist that much, I'll believe you didn't touch me. But you saw it, didn't you?" That. Seeing me not respond, the CEO bit her lip hard. A teardrop fell from her teary eyes. "You must think I'm a monster," she said, and broke down sobbing. I was at a loss, unable to find any words to say to her. I was so bewildered, I couldn't say a word. I was in a house fire when I was little, and got these burns. Anyone who saw them made a disgusted face. Friends, boyfriends, they all left me after seeing this. So I tried to never let anyone see, but now. As she wailed, I gripped my own arm tightly. Even though it was unintentional, I had learned her secret. So I should tell her mine too. "Ms. Young, look at this." I rolled up my sleeves, baring my burn scars to her. She stopped crying, eyes wide with surprise. "I'm the same as you. I was in a fire when I was little. Well, I jumped into one. I have them on my legs too." I pulled up my pant legs to show those scars as well. She stared intently at them. "I'm sorry for my attitude before. I felt awkward about learning your secret, even accidentally. I didn't think it was creepy or anything. I'm like this too, so I don't have any prejudice. What does it matter if someone has scars or marks on their body?" I had said that to comfort the CEO, but I can't deny I was also saying it to myself. She pressed her lips together tightly, as if holding back more tears. After a while, she slowly parted them. "When you say you jumped into a fire, what do you mean? Like, you jumped in to save someone?" "It's not as noble as that. Because I did something to her that I can never make amends for, no matter how much I try." I clenched my fist without thinking. I suddenly glanced at the CEO to find her staring at me in blank shock. I started to open my mouth, thinking the dizziness from her drinking may have not fully passed. That's when, "Hey Liam, wasn't your last name Daly a long time ago?" she asked. "How do you know that?" The CEO started crying again, but this time, they seemed to be tears of joy. "Then, you were the boy from back then. I've been looking for you all this time." She threw her arms around me. The sudden development made me think my heart would explode. At that moment, a keychain fell out of her pants pocket. It was a charred one with 3 sheep jumping in a row. "I always wanted to thank you. But when I went to your house after I got out of the hospital, no one was there. I tried to find you based on the name Liam Daly I heard from the neighbors, but I couldn't," she said, embracing me. Even as I tensed up from her heat and softness pressed against me, I felt my heart growing heavy. I slowly pulled away from her. She looked up at me, round eyes wet with tears, puzzled. "I don't deserve your thanks. Like I said, I did something unforgivable to you and your family." "That's not true. You saved me. I've always—" "That fire, it was my dad's fault." I managed to choke out the words lodged in my throat. The CEO's eyes flew wide open at what I said. "It's what my mom told me after I got out of the hospital. Even on that Christmas when the fire happened, my parents were fighting. In the end, my mom kicked my dad out, telling him to go cool his head. Walking and smoking as usual, my dad's foul mood reached its peak when he saw her fancy house, practically a mansion. In frustration, he tossed aside the cigarette he was smoking. He left after that. That was the cause of the fire. I wanted to apologize. Over and over again. But I thought you would never want to see me, the son of the guy who caused the fire. I was scared of you rejecting me. So I couldn't bring myself to see you. I didn't know you had gotten burned in that fire, or that you had been through horrible experiences because of it. I'm a coward who couldn't even go apologize to you. I gripped my scarred arm tightly. Then she gently pried my hand open. She stroked my exposed arm tenderly, as if to soothe it. Your father's sin is your father's sin. There's no way I would reject you when you saved me twice. I tilted my head at the word twice. She smiled and picked up the fallen sheep keychain. You might not be able to imagine it now, but I was sick back then. I only had a year left to live. As I looked up at her in surprise, the CEO began to tell me about that time. As a child, the CEO had been ill. Because of that, she couldn't go to school or even play outside much. As if to add insult to injury, she was then told she only had a year left to live. She sank into depression from the shock. She learned that surgery could potentially cure her, but she refused to undergo a risky operation just to avoid inconveniencing her parents. That's when she noticed me. The first time she saw me, I was trudging along a dark street after sunset. She thought I might have gotten in a fight with friends at school or something. But after that, she started looking out the window every day and realized that wasn't the case. Because the times I would walk by her house were all over the place. Some days I'd pass by close to noon, other days late at night like the first time she saw me. That was right when I had started skipping school. She seemed to realize that too. She wondered why this boy was skipping school, if something unpleasant was happening at home or at school. As she worried about that, I noticed her. Her heart raced at a rise meeting, but she tried to smile and wave so I wouldn't realize she had been watching me all this time. Then I hurriedly waved back with a flustered look, which she found so funny she couldn't help but laugh. She was relieved that I didn't seem to take it badly. After that, I started passing by her house at the same time each day. She saw right through my attempts to act casual. She was happy about that. Every day, she looked forward to seeing me, not knowing my name, voice, or personality. Realizing that I had started going to school properly and coming home before dark, she thought she needed to face forward like I was. She started wishing to overcome her illness so she could meet me. When she told her parents she would undergo the surgery, they embraced her, crying. It was while she was preparing to be hospitalized that the fire broke out. Left behind amidst the raging flames, she gave up on living, thinking if there was a God, he had long since abandoned her. You, Liam, risked your life to save me when I was like that. To me, you are my savior who saved my life twice. Those burn scars are proof of that. You don't need to hide them. You should be proud of them. As she tenderly touched my burn scars, I cried messily, my eyes growing hot. Then your burn scars are medals of honor too. The burns on your back, you got those shielding me from the flames when I passed out after falling down the stairs, right? Thanks to you protecting me, I avoided getting burns all over my body. If that had happened, I might not be here now. And it's thanks to that wordless exchange with you that I was able to start going to school properly. You're the one who saved me twice. As I hung my head, tears falling, she slowly pulled me to her chest. I cried my heart out, indulging in her enveloping kindness. Once I had my fill of crying and lifted my face, my gaze met hers, her eyes red and puffy. Liam, your eyes are so red. So are yours, Ms. Young. Stop with the Ms. Young. Call me Sophia. Sophia. Sophia, the CEO, smiled joyfully. The reason I started a company called Three Sheep is, well, of course I wanted to do good for the world and all, but I was hoping you might realize it from the company name and logo. I chose to sell bedding because I wanted people to feel happy when they go to bed at night, no matter how tough things get during the day. So that was it. I didn't pick up on that. Oh, really? Sophia seemed disappointed, her shoulders slumping. But she quickly perked up again and took my hand. I've been in love with you for so long. I swear that from now on, I'll love only you forever. I was helpless against her saying that with such passion in her eyes. Until now, I had gotten so many disgusted looks because of my burn scars. Even friends and girlfriends would be creeped out seeing these scars, saying hurtful things. So much so that I had vowed to never make friends or fall in love again. But with her, I could feel that hope rising up. Are you really sure you want me? Of course, my savior. Sophia entwined her arm with mine and nuzzled her cheek against it. I hugged her so she wouldn't see the tears welling up in my eyes again. Early the next morning, I went to the spa again. It really did deserve to be called a hotel with the best spa treatment. It felt great no matter how many times I got the massage. Some other guests there at the same time were giving me distasteful looks, but it didn't bother me anymore. I put on the bathrobe provided by the hotel and was walking down the hallway to my room when I ran into Ethan and his buddies. They seemed to be on their way to the spa now. Huh? Wait, you already went to the spa at this hour? Ethan asked, staring pointedly at my arms. He must have noticed the burn scars peeking out slightly from my sleeves. Before I could stop him, he swiftly rolled up my sleeves. His face immediately scrunched up in disgust. Ack, what is this? As Ethan stood there at a loss for words, his followers looked at my arms to see what the fuss was about and had the same reaction. What are you doing? Some of the female employees from admin and manufacturing happened to come by right then. Oh man, look at this. Actually, maybe better not. This guy's got grotesque burn scars on his arms. Ethan, he's got scars on the opposite arm too. On his legs too, both of them. For real. He's a monster. Ethan and his crew mocked my burn scars maliciously. The female employees averted their gaze from me, unsure if they should look, exchanging glances with each other. Then I'm a monster too, Sophia said, pushing through the female employees to approach me, perhaps because she was wearing a bathrobe. Ethan blushed, but he couldn't hide his bewilderment at her words just now. Leaving Ethan behind, Sophia came to stand by my side and took my arm. I was caught in a house fire when I was little. Liam saved me then. These burn scars are from that time, and I have the same scars on my back. Want to see? Ethan's face alternated between red and pale before he shook his head vigorously side to side. Sophia flashed him a defiant grin. If he's a monster, then I'm a monster too with the same burn scars. Well, can you laugh at me the same way, I wonder? Ethan and his group looked taken aback. One of the women shoved past Ethan to stand in front of me. She stared intently at my arms, then turned to face Ethan and the others. Ethan, what part of this is grotesque? It just makes me think, ouch. I hope he's okay. He's not a monster at all. Then the other women came over to look at my arms too. Yay, that was uncalled for. Ethan, you're exaggerating. They complained to him one after another, cowed by the women ganging up on them. Ethan and his buddies slunk back to their rooms. The women have been glaring at their retreating backs, but in the next instant, they swiveled around to swarm me, their eyes sparkling with unabashed curiosity. Liam, were you and the CEO childhood friends? Saving the CEO from a fire, that's incredible. So cool. Being told my burn scars were no big deal and then getting praised like that made me feel both happy and embarrassed, my face heating up. Hey, you're too close, everyone. And it's too late to be re-acknowledging how cool Liam is now, Sophia said, pouting. The women exchanged glances. Then they broke into knowing grins. Ah, I see. So you two are. You make a good couple. Well then, we'll head back to our rooms. Enjoy your alone time. Saying that, they promptly made their way to the spa. Their perceptiveness left me stunned. Sophia slipped her arm through mine. In that case, let's take them up on that and relax, shall we? She said, her mischievous smile making my heart race non-stop. The soft sensation of her upper arm pressed against mine was also contributing to my accelerated pulse. Let's go for a walk. A nice, slow walk outside, I suggested in a squeaky voice. Sophia puffed out her cheeks but then shrugged. Oh well, I guess. The scorching heat continued even past the equinox, despite the saying that the heat and cold end with the equinox. Fed up with the high temperature, I returned to the air-conditioned office and took a breather. Good work out there. It's hot again today, huh? One of the admin girls pointed a handheld fan at me. It was extremely cool. Thanks, I said, raising my arm slightly to indicate I'd had enough. The burn scars were starkly visible on my uncovered arm, but the admin girl didn't seem to mind. Man, those scars look cool no matter how many times I see them. She even said, ever since the company trip incident, more and more people had come to understand about my burn scars, and the people around me who discriminated against me had disappeared. It was becoming a very pleasant workplace. Liam, Ethan suddenly called out to me. He and his usual group had somewhat awkward expressions. What's up? Did something happen with a client? I asked. Nah, not that. Just, my bad for everything up till now. Ethan and his crew all apologized in unison. Their earnest attitude surprised not only me. I heard the admin girls gasp in astonishment too. I liked the CEO, you know. So I was jealous and my pride couldn't handle you, a high school grad, being in her good graces. But I've reflected on that. I ain't gonna act like I did before anymore. You're the right man for the job, both as sales leader and the CEO's boyfriend, Ethan said, his followers nodding deeply in agreement. Honestly, I hadn't thought I would gain understanding from Ethan and the others too, so I felt unexpected joy. It's fine. Let's keep working together to make Three Sheep thrive, as good colleagues and rivals. I held out my hand, and Ethan gripped it firmly in return. Applause broke out in the office. Sophia appeared then. Sorry to interrupt the excitement. Liam, you have a visitor. For me. Come with me. Tilting my head in puzzlement, wondering if it was a client, I followed behind Sophia. Sitting on the sofa in the reception room was my dad in a suit. I looked at Sophia in surprise, but she just said, well then, take your time, and left the room. With no other choice, I sat across from my dad. It's been a while, Liam. Oh, yeah. It really had been a long time since I'd seen my dad. Because my mom said it's better not to see that criminal. I hadn't met my dad since the day of that fire. My dad glanced at my arms, then bowed his head. Liam, I'm truly sorry. I've caused you so much trouble. As I struggled to find a response, my dad looked up. That CEO, she told me she was the girl you saved back then. Of course I apologized to her too. I know apologizing isn't enough. I did something truly, absolutely awful. So I was prepared to accept any abuse or anger. I was ready for her to kick me out, without even seeing me. But she forgave me. She's a very kind person. Eyes brimming with tears, my dad took a business card from his bag and handed it to me. It read Self Corporation, Director Howard Daly. I wanted to apologize much sooner, but I was scared you'd condemn me as a criminal. I thought I should at least properly find a job and rehabilitate myself into someone you could be proud of before going to apologize. I worked hard with that as my motivation, and just recently, the CEO of my current company entrusted me with one of the subsidiaries. I'm so sorry, he said. I shook my head at my dad's apology. I did resent you, it's true. I thought countless times that if only you hadn't done that. As time passed, those feelings of resentment faded, but even now there are parts I can forgive. But if Sophia forgave you, then I will too. So don't apologize anymore. Hearing that, my dad choked up and wept. After seeing my dad off, I headed to Sophia's office. I knocked and heard her call out, "Come in." Sophia, thank you for forgiving my dad. When I said that gratefully, Sophia let out a soft laugh. It's fine. I mean, wouldn't it be awkward to have a daughter-in-law who resents you? We were planning to officially tie the knot in the fall. Of course, I had told my dad about that earlier. Dad was really happy. He bawled. He must have been overjoyed. I'm happy too. I went to stand by Sophia, her cheeks lightly flushed, and took her hand. As long as I have you by my side, Sophia, even if other people who don't know the story behind my burn scars give me weird looks, I'll be okay. I feel the same. If I'm with you, Liam, I can overcome any hardship. Sophia squeezed my hand back and lifted it to her forehead as if in prayer. We live supporting each other, at times saving and at times being saved. By helping each other like that, I believe we can attain a happy future. I've been able to make it this far thanks to the support of so many people. I want to live earnestly, never forgetting that, and supporting others as much as I've been supported.